talk about the importance of recognizing how we can use different words to talk about things at all times, but sometimes we mean the same thing. And I realized this when I was speaking to my lovely Christian aunt. And what's great about her is that she is well informed of the stuff she likes to be informed about. And also she does a lot of research and is perfectly open to discussion and conversation about it, right? She doesn't shut things down even if she's very firm in her opinions and probably won't be convinced of yours. And specifically we got into the topic of intuition and Holy Spirit. And I realized very quickly we were saying the exact same thing, just with different, I don't know, constructions to base off of, right? So we were talking about how I had been making a lot of decisions in my life that didn't align right, that didn't feel right, how I had kind of lost my, and I say the word intuition all the time, that something, that source energy was speaking through me in a sense. And I felt that buggering of my guides yelling at me, telling me like, that's not a good idea. Don't do that. Why are you doing that? Stop that. And how it has been a ongoing process for me to try to find things that are, you know, good. But I didn't use the word guides or anything like that, because if I said the word paganism or witchcraft, she probably would have had a conniption fit. So I was speaking in more vague terms, more things like intuition, you know, connecting with a higher power, which in her mind, I'm sure she was translating into God. You mean God, Sam? And I'm like, no, not your form of God, but yeah, higher power, sure. And so I was describing what I was experiencing and trying to really line with that more and how it's been working really great. And she goes, oh honey, that's the Holy Spirit talking to you. That's what that is. That is someone coming in saying, you should go this way. This is what's been planned for you. This is good. And even though I disagree entirely on the idea of being planned, it kind of struck me for a moment when I realized that for so long I would hear things like Holy Spirit and fate and God's plan and all of this crap. And some of it I would be like, all of it I threw out. I was just like, baby with the bathwater. I don't care. If it's part of Christianity, no, not doing it. There is something I could relate to within that realm of thinking. And I've realized that that is very much not the case. That me and her both very much rely on our inner wisdom in the thing that is echoing in the back of our head. We don't rely so much on a book. For her it would be the Bible. For me it'd be the 20,000 million books I'm currently reading about paganism, spirituality, etc. We don't rely on knowledge given to us by others. A lot of the stuff we rely on is the intuitive knowing, that tapping into thing. She calls hers Holy Spirit speaking to her. I call mine tapping into the collective consciousness, tapping into my own higher self. Like, there's a million different words I have for it. That's what's interesting, is that we could speaking of the same thing, just knowing that we had to use different words and different constructs wrapped around those words, even if we're both experiencing the exact same thing, that we're relying on what we find to be true within ourselves as the final goalpost of how we're going to make a decision. And I think that is extremely important when talking with other people and stuff, right? Like, I used to be so rigid against anyone with a different spirituality than me. And by that I meant I was like, if you had any spirituality, there was a certain time where I was like, you're an idiot, because I was you can't prove any of it, so we shouldn't even talk about it for a little while. And then I realized that no, actually I like exploring and talking about it, and so if other people want to speak about it more vocally, I'm just not comfortable to do that. That doesn't make them crazy or more woo or whatever else. It just means they're more comfortable talking about it, even if they don't know the answer. And having that understanding that I could be speaking the exact same thing, that we were describing the exact same experience, just with different words, really worked well for me, because I suddenly could connect with my aunt on a totally different level that I didn't think I could connect to with her before. I thought our spiritualities and our beliefs and our faiths were so different that there was no way I could ever truly understand how she approaches life. I could never see how she could come up with half the judgments or half the decisions she does, because her basis for her life is Christianity. And what that really means for her, I could never understand it totally, because I could never subscribe to that idea. And I realized that no, actually there is a lot of I could do. I can understand why spirituality has such a huge influence on her now, because my spirituality has a huge influence on me and all the decisions I make. I can recognize that we both listen to our inner self very, very strongly, that almost ranks everything else, because in her mind that's God's voice talking to her, and in my mind it's my higher self. It is the universe, it is source speaking down through me saying like, hey, this is probably a good idea for you. This is good energy. This is good alignment. This is a good idea. Do that. Do that. And that's great that we actually approach life in a very similar manner that I didn't think we did before. All because we just use a different word for something. So now I'm wondering about how many other different words, right? Like, I do not believe that there is one singular God up in the clouds, man fatherly, speaking down and controlling us all like puppets. I don't believe that idea. But the idea that we're both tapping into something inside of ourselves. For her, she thinks it is the man in the clouds doing that, or the man beyond us. That was another thing that we were discussing. We were both talking about how, in my mind, if there is a source of creation in our current manifestation in this meat suit, we are currently not able to truly comprehend or understand it fully. Like, even the ways we have done to comprehend and understand it, me talking about multiple realities, the astral, all of these words are still so shallow in the understanding of what it probably is. It's probably 10 times bigger and more complex. It's like if I'm the baby and someone's trying to teach me algebra, I'm never gonna get it. I might get 1 + 2, and I understand that's a part of it in the algebra later, but until I grow up, I'm not going to quite understand it. So until I leave this reality, until I maybe level up, ascend, any of those words, I don't really know, I'm never gonna truly comprehend it. And she 100% agreed with me, which I found fascinating, because I thought that most Christians were like, no, like, we have figured it out and all the rest of you are wrong, like, da, da, da. Like, my aunt fully said that. She goes, well, she thinks the Bible is the most probable to what might or may not happen after we die. She still says that God in itself is we cannot comprehend what is really happening creation-wise or how that all came to be. He is so beyond us. And she kept saying the word, I keep saying he, but he's not even a he. It's beyond that. It is more than that, beyond our comprehension. And I just sat there and I was like, oh, we also agree on this, which I was amazed. I was amazed that even though they use the word God and I use the word source, that there is still that idea of vastness, of incomprehensible knowledge or energy or way of creating. Like, that idea that this could be incomprehensible to us was a firm fact for both of us. The same way as that this the higher consciousness or God or whatever speaks through us through that inner knowing, that ding in the back of our head. She calls it the Holy Spirit. I call it intuition. I call it source, power speaking through me. Like, there's so many different ways to explore something so similar. And I always kind of knew that most religions seem to kind of like talk about things, and there always seems to be like a baseline, like, be a good person, don't be a dick. You know, there's like it's when you get to the weird accessory details, you're like, well, that's why that's different, because like we both believe in something, but you believe in this and you call yours that, and that's weird. Like, and so how many things are being missed just because it's the exact same thing, just a different word for it, a different vocabulary, a different construction that ultimately leads to the same experience in some senses. And I don't think that everyone believes exactly the same and that we're all just using a different framework to operate in. In some respects I think that, in other respects I'm like, no, I think that we're all kind of tapping into different things for a reason. And with that can come a lot of confusion. There are definitely people who believe in a thing like hell, and I don't, you know, hell, double L, with the burning and the brimstone and all the torture for all of eternity. I don't believe in that, and some people most definitely do. They think it's like, that's a thing that happens, that's a place, that's where you go. And there's no way for me to really even see how that could translate into something I could believe. But there are a lot more things that I realized, oh no, maybe we do share a lot of experiences, interactions than I thought. And that has allowed me to connect better and understand that, hey, maybe it isn't so different in some respects, right? I think that going forward with relationships, no matter what, it is nice to speak with more people and have a community of people who think more like I do. You know, they have the same framework and vocabulary to discuss these things. It's much easier for me to speak with people who understand that it is intuition that I'm tapping into, or a higher self I'm tapping into, than it is for me to constantly talk to people who think that that's the Holy Spirit talking to you. Like, I mean, yes, but no, like, that comes with some extra stuff on it that I'm not entirely sure I want to deal with. So it's easier still to have this, to talk to people with the same vocabulary, the same understandings, the same foundations and framework to work in. But I like that, oh hey, it's not limited to just those people. There are people who, a lot of people who operate in the world who probably think very similar to me and have similar experiences to me. They're just using different words for it than I would. Anyway, I make new videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Comment down below. Have you had this experience? Especially people, a lot of people have been commenting in my comments lately who have you know, a lot of different relationships. You know, some people who are married or going to be married to people who have are deeply in the Christian faith and aren't. You know, a lot of mixed religions and spiritualities happening there, which fascinates me, because even though there's like some diversity in my family, there's definitely still either we don't talk about it as much, or the people who do talk about it are the people very similar to me. I'm a little bubbly in that aspect. Maybe I should branch out more beyond that, but anyway, comment all that stuff down below if you find that, if you don't, or if you think that no, it's a different word for a reason. It's something entirely different, Sam. You're crazy. It's nonsense. Before I go, just so everyone is aware, I am doing Youtober like I did last year, which, what does that mean? That means in the month of October, there will be a new video every single day up on my channel. And I'm starting to film for that now. So if there are certain topics that you wish for me to cover, is there a question you want to do? If there's enough questions, maybe I'll do a Q&A video. I don't know, I've never done one of those before, but all of that leave in the comments down below as well. If there's a specific thing you want me to talk about more in depth, or a different experience, or you have questions, all of that down below. And I will probably show up at some video at some time in the month of October. All right, bye.